and Charlotte Mason talk about spreading the feast and mother culture. Welcome to the diner, where we serve up culture from a short order kitchen. Step up to the counter and let us serve you a slice of mental pie. Not a feast, just a snack. A deep thought to chew on from a big, meaty book. It'll go good with a cup of coffee. Then you get your refreshed self back to the fray with a few new beautiful thoughts to think. It's season 1, and the Blue Plate special is Dr. Timothy Patitsas, The Ethics of Beauty. You know, that huge, intimidating popular theology book that you wish you had time to read? Well, have a couple bites of it with us and join the conversation. I'm Laura E. Wolf, author of Sasha and the Dragon, The Lion and the Saint, and Patterns for Life, an Orthodox reflection on Charlotte Mason education. And I'm here with my co-author, Lisa Rose, numerophile, bibliophile, and pianist extraordinaire. And we're here to talk about the ethics of beauty. Lisa, why should everybody be listening to us talk about this book?
If you haven't heard of The Ethics of Beauty, it's a big, fat theology book, or a book on ethics, really, but it's chock full of theology. And it is, as the title kind of hints at, one of the most beautiful books I have ever read in my life. And I really wish that everybody I know would read it. But I also know that hardly anybody has time to read a book this big. It's over 700 pages. I don't know, close to, right about 700. And it takes time.
Well, I think part of the secret to this, and I tell this because I've gifted this book to a number of people, and every time they look at me and go, "You want me to read this?" But but the next thing I say is, no, it's really not as intimidating as it looks, because Dr. Patitsas writes in a conversational style. It is 700 pages, but it's like 700 pages of like sitting in a coffee shop with your buddy chatting about, popular theology. When Dr. Patitsas uses theological terms or ethical terms, they're all defined clearly. He explains what he means so clearly. And like you said, it's a beautiful experience. Reading this book is a beautiful experience. And more importantly, some of the things that he talks about in this book, like trauma, for instance, or war, or the relationships between men and women, these are all at the forefront of our cultural issues. And so Dr. Patitsas, reading this book with him, for me, it was extraordinarily clarifying in my thinking. I assume you had a similar experience.
Yeah. I mean, now that I have read it, I can't unsee what I've seen. I see the implications of what he has to say everywhere in my life. It doesn't matter where I look. It's all over the place. And so I think it's so important to think about these things, because this is something that is missing from the way that we're used to thinking and to operating, even in, I mean, it's so incredibly important.
Well, so often in America, especially, to be Orthodox in America feels like we get caught in the middle of somebody else's argument, right? Like whether it's, Catholic versus Protestant, or even politically right versus left, these dichotomies, we have a tendency not to locate ourselves within them, but say, well, how about a different way, right? And I think even in the introduction, Dr. Patitsas does an excellent job of explaining this, because to learn to think in an ethical way is to think within the beautiful way, to practice the proper order of heart over mind, and cultivate that elusive concept we talk about in Orthodoxy of the nous. So one of the things he says on page 2 of the introduction is, through the surprising order of the beautiful, reason participates in and discloses living mystery as mystery. That is, when it starts with an eros for the beautiful, reason is able to announce to the world what mystery is, that which interprets and changes us, just when we manage to engage with and interpret it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we are so used to having reason be the overarching principle of everything, and like you said, as Orthodox, we kind of find ourselves, stuck on the outside or in the middle of, different conflicts that go on around us. But I think that's part of the reason why, is that we are not used to that elevation of reason, as the
Hmm.
primary paradigm through which we examine everything. We have a
Right.
different way of doing it.
Reason is the tool we use, not the lens that we exist through. It's a
Yes,
very different way of using it.
exactly. Charlotte Mason herself brings that up a lot, that reason is the servant, not the master. And so it's something, though, that it's an unexamined assumption. It probably stems from the Enlightenment, right? That's what everybody says, that reason is, the highest way. And so we're all
Hmm.
used to thinking in that way, all used to assuming that that's the case. But this book challenges that, and it makes so much sense.
Okay, so we've got a good reason to read this book, even though it's still a little intimidating, because here we've been talking about things like reason and ethics, and we've even thrown in the word noose within the first 5 minutes. And there are a lot of Orthodox podcasts out there, right? I mean, there are tons. There's some really excellent Orthodox podcasts out there.
Hmm.
But you and I have been talking about this. There's a void right now, and that is for short form podcasts, right, Lisa?
Right, right. I mean, who has time to listen to 2.5 hours of talking, even if it's really good? Like, there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
really, worthwhile podcasts out there, but it's hard to make the time to listen for an extended period. And then if you have to break it up, it kind of becomes, it becomes choppy. Your attention is scattered, and it's hard to maintain the thread of the whole conversation. And
Mm-hmm.
so what we want to do is just offer, a short bite, like we said in the intro, a mental snack. We want to give our listeners something to chew on, something to think about, something to take with them, when they're finished, not so that they're overwhelmed, but something that they can actually act on, something manageable.
Right. So with that in mind, that's going to be the format of this podcast is think 10 to 15 minutes. What we're going to do for season 1 is start with a quote from Ethics of Beauty itself. And then Lisa and I will unpack it a little bit. We'll talk about it and apply it to our own lives as Orthodox Christians, as mothers raising children, as human beings living in America in the 21st century. And after a couple minutes of that, we'll leave you with a couple questions. And then that's it. There's your mental snack. Your coffee break is over. It's time to go back and take care of all the other things you've got to do.
And you can visit our Substack at orthodoxcm.substack.com, and you'll be able to comment on the podcast and start a conversation. And we would love to hear your thoughts. So please visit us there.
Yeah, let us know what you think about these
Yes, if
questions.
you don't have to answer them in the comments if you don't want to, but if you want to, please, you're welcome to share, and we would love to engage. And thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.